Stealth is an art form that is very hard to master. Only a few people understand it, and even fewer have mastered it. But the best artists of stealth are those who go by the name Snake.
What was that noise?
The Metal Gear franchise is one of the most influential gaming series of all time. Back in the 80s when Metal Gear first came out, every action game was just trying to make you feel so cool, like an unstoppable machine, until you run out of coins. But Metal Gear was different, it wanted you to avoid enemies and avoid as many fights as you could. And then when Metal Gear Solid came out, it showed games could have interesting stories with good voice acting and scripts that didn't sound like it was written by an 8-year-old.
Here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
Chances are most of the games you call your favourites wouldn't have been made without Kojima and his horniness. But the one thing no one appreciates is how fucking confusing the Metal Gear story is. Like Solid Snake, he looks quite old, but he's actually the younger brother of these two who look way younger than him, but they're not actually brothers because they're all clones. Like what the fuck is going on here? Like, no one really gets the Snake family tree. It's a question every fan has pondered at least once. Well, that question is the one I'm gonna answer today. I think I've got a good understanding of games. I mean, I've studied them for years, which is my way of saying I've watched a few Did You Know gaming videos. But yeah, we're gonna give this a go, and I'm gonna try and piece together this weird family tree. So first, we have Big Boss's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Boss. There's not much to say about them. We don't know much about Big Boss's parents. I just know that he did have some, and they're very important to mention because no one else here has got fucking parents. Anyway, the next one we got. Big Boss. Big John, no last name, Boss, is what I would call the main character of the Metal Gear franchise. He only really appears in Metal Gear Solid 3, 4, and 5, but he's mentioned throughout most of the games. I think this was because Kojima kind of wanted us to understand who the legend was. Throughout many of the games, you just hear a Big Boss, and he's like this legendary figure, and you don't really ever see him. So I guess Kojima wanted us to feel that before we see him. He originally went by the name of Naked Snake, and no, it's not just because he was a thriving nudist at one point, but because during his mission in Metal Gear Solid 3, he had very minimal equipment, and he basically had to pick up everything he found, and that was everything he had. So, he was practically naked. And it was also during this point of the franchise where Kojima was like, hey, eye patches are pretty fucking cool. And he was right. Anyway, never mind that, because now we have our next character. Venom Snake. Now, as you can probably see, Venom Snake doesn't have any parents like Big Boss does. But he's not actually a clone of Big Boss like the rest. He's essentially a test tube baby. But he was then created to be a doppelganger for Big Boss. He's the main protagonist in Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain. However, he has been in the franchise before. He was in the franchise way back during Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. And it was also at this point where Kojima was like, hey, metal arms are pretty cool too. I'm not cutting off my fucking arm just for a YouTube video. Anyway, never mind that, because the next one we have is Liquid Snake. Now, to be honest with you, there's not really much I need to tell you about Liquid Snake, other than the fact that he never ever fucking ever dies ever. This man has been blown up, beaten to within an inch of his life, shot at numerous times, and flung off the side of a fucking cliff. And this is all in one game, but he still manages to come back in the sequel. As you've probably inferred, Liquid Snake is kind of like the villain of the Metal Gear Solid franchise, with him mostly just going out of his way to fuck up Solid Snake. He's in Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't know how he's still alive after all that shit that probably happened in those games, but good on him for his perseverance. And something I need to tell you is that he absolutely hates another one of the Snakes, because he received Big Boss's recessive genes, which are the inferior ones, and he hates the man that got his superior genes. And the man who got them was none other than Solid Snake. Solid David Snake is what I would call Big Boss's true successor, and alongside him, he is what I would also call as the second main character of the Metal Gear franchise. He's appeared in Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 4. Like I said before, he got Big Boss's dominant genes, which are the superior genes. However, it was revealed that Liquid actually got the dominant genes, proving that Solid Snake, just as a badass, just cuz. And just like Big Boss, Snake received his very own eye patch, because every fucker needs an eye patch. Like Carl Grimes, Give him an eye patch. Nick Fury, his bitch ass got scratched by a cat, so give him an eye patch. And Crocodile Stan, give him an eye patch, because there's no way any character can be badass or mysterious without missing half their fucking vision. Anyway, moving on to the last of the Big Boss clones. Solidus Snake. Just like Liquid, there's nothing much I really need to tell you about Solidus Snake. However, he was at one point the fucking President of the United States of America. However, shortly after his time as the President, he turned into a terrorist as he believed he had no power when he was the President because the Patriots run everything. Alright, what's that? Who are the Patriots? They don't matter. A quick rundown of the Patriots is they basically just kind of like run everything, and the President's just kind of like a play figure for them. He appears in Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, 4, and 5, and alongside Liquid, I would call him the villain of the franchise. And he also appeared in the spin-off games, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Anyway, next we have Jack, formerly known as just Snake. Yeah, he at one point just went by the codename of Snake, but the Colonel eventually realised, hey yo, we already got like 5 snakes, and 3 of them look identical. And that is how he eventually donned the name of Raiden. He wasn't a clone like Big Boss like the rest, but just like Venom, we love all our snaky boys around here, even the adopted ones. And he literally is an adopted child, as we find out he is the adopted kid of Solidus Snake. What? You play as him in Metal Gear Solid 2, but because people fucking hated him, he was boosted off to the spin-off games where he became a cyborg? What the fuck? However, he was reunited into the franchise as he appeared in Metal Gear Solid 4. For better or worse, but he is the only Snake to ever have a kid. And no, the kid wasn't created in cloning. He was actually created in the more traditional way of... He's called Little John, and there's not really much to say about him other than the fact that he looks like a fucking Final Fantasy character. And that is about all the snakes. There sure aren't many of them, but they are masters of their work. I'm not a master of the games, like I don't even own the 4th one yet, but I'm pretty sure I got their story straight, up until Kojima decides, you know what, I'm going to make it all a hologram, and your entire childhood is a lie. But that's about all I have time to talk about today, so if you don't mind me, I have some ladders to climb.